with Penn State people. We welcome on this edition Beau Bartlett, Penn State commit, Penn State signee, I guess, a 4-time national prep champion, ranked number 1 in the country at 138 pounds by both Flow Wrestling and Intermat. Number 4 prospect in the recruiting class in the country on Flow's big board. I'm going to welcome him in now. And he'll be here in just a second. There he is, wearing his Penn State wrestling shirt. How you doing, Beau?
Hey, pretty good. How are you?
Good. Thanks for joining us. And I'm sure we'll get some people who want to hear what you have to say about some things. How have you been, just for starters, like coping with isolation and this new world order we're working through where you're doing online school and all that?
I mean, I'm pretty good with my time management. So the school part, that's been really easy to manage. Workouts, that's just working out on my own in my basement. But I mean, I guess like the social factor, that's definitely tough for everyone, being away from people.
And wrestling and the structure and discipline that comes with that sport kind of equips you. Maybe, you never expect this situation, but it equips you for different life situations, right? Just being able to survive in your sport makes you better in a lot of ways. Yeah. There are obviously a lot of serious things happening in the world, but I'm always curious, like, you're coming down the home stretch in your senior year. Now, suddenly you mentioned the social factor. You don't get to the finish line with your typical graduation and stuff. How have you been handling that? Like, how disappointing is that for you?
I mean, it's really awful. I mean, like, just scaling it down to not think about everything that's going on. Being a little selfish. Like, yeah, it's really not a great way to end senior year. But I mean, up until this point, like my team and everything, we took over like the number 1 ranking. We had a lot of champs. Like it ended perfect, to be honest. This last was just like the icing on the cake, the spring trimester.
So yeah, so the season went really well, obviously for you guys as a team. Let me ask you, there's a couple of things that were on your Twitter feed that I want to get your take on. The first thing, it's a pinned tweet, so I know that it's important to you. Let me read it. Empty the tank, score points, make the fans happy. It's pretty simple. Yeah. Not everybody can make it that simple. Like, why is it so easy for you to get that mindset and mentality to just attack?
Well, I think if you overthink things, you'll definitely spread yourself too thin, right? So I think if you can reduce it to just like something simple like that, empty tank, score points, make the fans happy. It's easier to stay focused and keep that one goal in mind.
We're talking to Beau Bartlett, Penn State wrestling commit. We're on Facebook Live now. This video you might be watching on PennLive later. Your questions and comments are welcome if you got them. Otherwise, we'll just kind of keep talking to Beau about wrestling, about what his future holds. And I know you're passionate, obviously, about the sport in a broad sense. The other thing from your Twitter feed, your proposal of weight classes. You have an opinion on that? What's your opinion just in general of this discussion happening about reducing weight classes to make the sport better? Okay. You clearly are not in support of that.
Well, so all in all, I think adding more weights is the best decision. But like, there's so many things that just don't allow that to happen. To like just add more weights, I think there should be like a ridiculous amount. There's currently like 14. I think there should be like 18, close to 20, but that just can't happen. Right. So another thing would be my coach, Coach Green. He's the coach of Wyoming Seminary. He had a really great idea. He posts things and like posts articles, and I was reading them. And one of them was increasing the weight classes for individual tournaments to 15 and allowing double entry. So a team doesn't just have to pick the one varsity guy. You can send multiple guys, because if you're not on varsity, you basically miss out on an entire season. So This way would allow like more kids to compete, one extra weight class. But then in duels would be reduced from 14 weights to 13. And the good thing about 13 weights would be it'd be an odd amount of matches. Whereas like right now there's ties and you have to go down to like the fifth criteria to figure out all that stuff right now.
It happens a lot too.
Yeah.
It happens more than you think. Yeah.
Much. It can just be solved by, all right, who got most pins? All right, that one, or who won more matches. There will always be a team, unless there's forfeits. So that's a whole other thing, but you can't really change that. Right. So with like the less weight classes, the argument right now is basically the middleweights. Everyone's like, okay, we get it. There's a lot of great athletes that go into wrestling that fall in that middle area. But the thing is like, all right, the smaller guys, the freshmen that weigh 80, 90 pounds, and then the football players that weigh in the realm of like 220 to 240. Why do they have to go up to heavyweight? Or so it's like those questions, and so they're really polarizing because you have a bunch of small guys argue with like big guys on social media, and it's just not
Right.
working.
And I feel like, there's a lot of innovative conversation out there that calls for not radical reform of the sport, but calls for fresh ideas. And I get the idea that maybe the people who actually, make these decisions at a national and then at a state by state level don't really allow themselves to hear some of these ideas. They're talking amongst themselves, and I know that there's a complaint among coaches and certainly wrestlers, the people who participate in the sport, that their voices aren't really heard in this discussion.
Yeah, it's hard to like because everyone wants to express their opinion, and obviously everyone should be able to express their opinion. It's just like, are you just saying things, or like who's hearing what you're trying to say? Like what's actually being accomplished? And most of the time, not much is being
Yeah,
accomplished.
social media is just you're just shouting at a cloud and then rinse and repeat. Just yell it and then just and do it again and again and again. But
Hope it
it's
comes
not getting
back.
us anywhere. But at least, so like it's interesting, you think you as a higher profile wrestler, you put out a tweet that it gets the discussion moving, and I feel like it gets the discussion going in a constructive way.
Yeah, I noticed that. Like most of the time, I post on like Twitter, just like a normal 19-year-old boy, just like go whatever. And but
Yeah,
then like whenever I post something that's like, I guess people listen to, not like what I ate for breakfast, but like something like this weight class thing or anything like that. Like it just gets so many like taps and see like how many I can see like the numbers how it spread. Like this one was seen by like 65,000 people, which I don't even get. But like yeah, so I guess when I talk about like real life scenarios and situations and topics, it gets the word out there better.
does that inspire you to talk about more real life topics, or are you just going to go back to breakfast tomorrow?
Well, I'm a pretty lighthearted person, so whatever comes to mind. Sometimes it's just my
Yeah.
food. Sometimes it's pancakes. Sometimes it's how many weight classes do we need to save wrestling?
Yeah, you can go back and forth. But I think social media allows you that voice, and people respect your voice because you're in it. There's a lot of fans that maybe they wrestled in the past, maybe they don't, but a lot of times it's not constructive. It's just sort of that blind social media rage that doesn't push the conversation anywhere good. At least you got it moving somewhere good. Any other fixes for the sport of wrestling you have in the back of your mind there that maybe you didn't tweet out yet?
I mean, the thing is, like, it's always evolving. That like you look at every like 10 years, and like people that wrestled during that time, it's like there's some big change. Like I know when like my dad was wrestling back then, it was just a straight like 5 minute, maybe yeah, like just a 5 minute period. That was it, just a 5 minute match, and like over, and we got like push outs, like just so many things are always changing. I mean, I know stuff's going to change more and more by the time like soon. I mean, the rules are going to change again, and it's just adapting. I don't have anything specific right now, but I'm aware it will change.
Speaking of that, would you have enjoyed wrestling back in the day when there were no tech falls, that you could just roll up like 46 points in a match if you wanted to? Would you have liked that or not like that?
I think it might have been fun to like try out, but I'm not. I mean, as of right now, I'm not the guy that goes out there and scores like 20 points. I put them on their back and pin them, and like
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I don't know. I think it'd be fun, but then also then they didn't have like blood time, like like all like the awareness of blood and like the dangers of like open wounds. And it was just like, oh, you're bleeding, keep wrestling. So
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, and it's probably at a certain point, wrestling 5 minutes against kids like who are completely overmatched by you, that might be a little bit much by the end of a year. Once or twice, maybe. Let me ask you about Penn State and what made Penn State the choice for you. What were the early days of your recruitment like, and who were the other schools you were considering, and then how do you work through the process?
Yeah. So to really sum it up, I think it all started when I was younger. Within the span of about a week in kindergarten, I said two distinctly different things. We were in class and I was like talking about stuff, and I was like, "Do you think I can go to Harvard?" Right? And I said this to my kindergarten teacher, and she was like, "Well, I don't know. It's kind of hard. Like you're telling me in kindergarten, you should probably be like, yeah, shoot for the stars." She was like, "Well, I don't know. It's just hard. You probably just focus on like getting through this grade and maybe getting through high school and all that stuff. And I told my parents that, and they did not like that. So then, ever since then, it was like a beacon. Shoot for Harvard, and there was really just something to keep your academics in check. Keep that check. And so, like, throughout all of elementary school, middle school, high school, it was always like, all right, keep my grades up. Grades are very important. So then, when time came, I think like end of sophomore year, or might have been sophomore year, it was like I was looking at Ivy League. I was only looking at Ivy League, and I was like, that was the thing I want to go on. I want to be at an Ivy League school. Another thing I said during kindergarten was, man, I really want to be on a good team, a good wrestling team. Now at the time, that was just like a team where all my friends would be on. It was like, oh, we're
Right.
like, and we would just like beat people up in Arizona, and like we really wasn't that hard. Pennsylvania wrestling, Arizona wrestling, completely different. Respect them both, but man, PA is tough. And so, like, as times went on, I went on to like my high school, Wyoming Seminary, and like we got good, and that was a good team. And like the concept of being on a good team was going hand in hand with academics, and it's like, how can I fulfill both of them? And then like I was looking at all the schools, took my visits to like all Ivy League schools. I like returned a couple texts to other people, but I really did. I was not interested. I was like, Ivy League, that's it.
Only Ivy, yeah.
Yeah, then I wrestled at a senior U.S. Open. So that's like men. That's grown men. I wrestled that. I got 8th. And then the next week, Cael Sanderson came to my house. And then I was just like hearing what he said, and I was like really starting to see it. And I was like, man, I could still do academics. Like there's no school, like a school really doesn't make that much of a difference, like on book wise. It's like what you study, what you choose to study, what you do with it, and all this stuff. And I was like, wow. I was just chasing a name before, and then I was like, that
Right.
paired with a great wrestling team, great coaches, great atmosphere, it was a no-brainer. And it committed right there. I think it held it down for like a little secret for like about a week or two. How to get my grades, everything like official, get them sent and all that stuff, and then it's been easy since then.
Yeah. Couple questions. One, did you know Cael Sanderson was coming to your house, or was that a surprise?
I knew he was, like, that day. My dad texted me at lunch, and I was like, oh. I came home after practice, and he came like 5 minutes like after.
Your first impression of Cael when you sit down, because there's, for somebody who's accomplished a lot, his modesty is pretty unbelievable, right? Like he doesn't come in puffing his chest out like I'm Cael Sanderson. He comes in just a super ordinary guy.
Yeah. So I had a lot of Cael wrestling shoes growing up, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And so like that name wasn't attached to like a person that you would like talk. You know what I mean? Like it was like
it was a
like,
thing. It was an idea. Yeah.
It was an idea. It was like, oh, you have the new Jordans. Like it was it's kind of silly.
Yeah.
So like he shows up, and I'm just like, I didn't know what to say for a second. And like for like I don't know how long he was there, but I think for like half of that time I didn't say a word. I was just like looking back and forth between my parents and Coach Sanderson, just not knowing what to do. And then eventually I like opened up, and I feel really comfortable now. He's a cool guy.
How much? I mean, was it all connected to how you performed at the Senior Open? Were you on his radar before that?
Well, I was on people's radar, but like the word on the street, because I texted every single coach this, was I only want to go Ivy League. That is it. So like that's why some coaches would try, some coaches like they respected my 16, 15, 16-year-old decision, right, saying, okay, he wants to go Ivy League. Okay, cool. And like, and I guess a lot of coaches are probably angry. That's a whole other thing. So yeah, they respected my decision. Then eventually I was like pretty open-minded. I matured a little bit, and everything works out.
Did he confront the only want to go Ivy League thing, or did you come to that realization on your own? And I'm guessing, the idea of trying to, like, if he knew that was your position, the idea of texting or calling you and getting you off that position was probably not going to work that well. So the drop by probably was a good tactic.
Yeah. So it was never a he never. It was actually nice. This is why I enjoyed that conversation the most out of any coach, any program, because normally they say like, all right, hey, what are your goals, or like, we can do this, blah blah blah. He that I don't think he did not try to get me to go to Penn State one time. Like it was just like having a conversation with a man, like just a normal conversation. And then I feel like that's a better way. I feel like a lot of coaches are approaching like 16-year-old kids and saying, "Hey, this is what we got to do," and they're starstruck, and they're like they can't think straight. I mean, they're 16.
Right.
I'm still, I know I got a long way to go, but I'd like to think I'm a little bit smarter than my 16-year-old self. I hope.
Yeah.
And so they're telling these things like, "Hey, national championships, big duels, NCAA, D1," and like they just start starstruck and they commit. I've heard of so many kids committing too soon and happens too quickly. So by not selling me and not throwing everything my way, just having a normal conversation, I was actually the one that said, "Man, I want to wrestle at Penn State." Like, so
Yeah. So it was really just it was just a conversation about wrestling, life, whatever. What swayed you? Just the general tone of the conversation.
So another, like, going back to what I said in kindergarten, the second thing, like I always wanted to be on a good team, and I have this thing written down because we had it freshman year. We had to pick like not pick like point out like colleges that we were like looking at. It was a really like easy going thing as a freshman college prep school, so that's probably why they had us do it.
Sure.
But we just write it stuff, and I was like Ivy League, and I'm not even joking when I said this. I literally wrote Ivy League, unless Penn State. Like that was a real thing that actually happened. But at the same time, I was like, all right, if I'm not going to go to Ivy League, I would only go to Penn State. But I'm probably going to go to Ivy League. I'm like 99% sure Ivy League. But if there's going to be one, it was like the Achilles heel of this decision. Like this would be it. And then it happened. I was like, well, all right, this is it. This is it.
So, and one of the things, and I'm curious your take on this, there are certain wrestlers, there are certain programs, coaches, when the bright lights are on, they wrestle better. They're more themselves in pressure situations than they are wrestling in, not that any duel or whatever is quiet, but in the NCAA championships, for example. What is it about the Penn State mindset or what Cael Sanderson preaches or the types of kids they're going after where you rise into the spotlight instead of getting tight and wrestling not to lose, for example?
Well, I know given my relative like newness to this whole new program that I'll be joining. I guess I don't know too much specifically about them. I know they preach having fun a lot, and that seems like a kind of a cliche just thrown around. It's like, oh, they're having fun. Well, yeah, and duh, if you want to, you should have fun what you're doing. But like, it's really more than that. And I applied that this entire year wrestling. I knew this was my last high school season. You know, last year I had more losses than I had in like the past 6 years, like junior year, and I was like, man, just things didn't go right. And then this year, I think I was too focused. I wanted to be number one. So many things, arrogant things, that just were not helpful to the overall growth, right? Then this year, I was talking to coach. I was like, all right, have fun. What's that mean? And so really, it just meant like going out there and just wrestling, not because you want to win a tournament, not because you want to beat this guy, but because like this is what you do. This is what defines me. Like I love to wrestle. This is how I have fun. So this is what I'm going to do.
The sport, in other words, in the sport. And what you're doing it for defines you, and not the outcomes of situations. Basically,
exactly.
Like once you're able to wrap your head around that idea, that frees you, so to speak, as a senior.
Yes.
Okay, and I think that cuts to the core of what Penn State is able to get across to guys, because it's absolutely true. They wrestle better on the big stage, and I was more curious, like how you're able to do that, and clearly you found your way on that front. What about weight wise, are you 141? Is that the idea? Like maybe with some flexibility to change it down the road?
The thing is, like, college wrestlers are huge. So I really have no idea, no plan. We've never even discussed weights. Like right now, it's just get in, see what's happening. We'll see.
Okay.
I have no idea right now.
Okay, but you're comfortable either way. You comfortable going down, or you comfortable going up?
I'm comfortable going anywhere. I can lose weight. I can gain weight. I like to lift weights. I also like to run. So, I mean, anyway,
whatever they want to do. Here's something interesting too. And Cael actually, so I saw for the first time in about a year and a half, Cael Sanderson sent a tweet. And this was a couple weeks ago. about the extra year of eligibility. And I think it's a great idea. I'm curious if you can put yourself in the shoes of a college wrestler, particularly like a junior or a senior, where you grind the whole year and then the opportunity to wrestle in NCAAs is taken away from you, what that feeling would be like, and then not getting the chance to get that year back. But then also as somebody who's coming in as a freshman, where you're sort of buying into a vision or the timing of maybe when you can get on the mat or whatever, and the timing of all that changes if a guy gets an extra year. I'm just curious your take on just the whole conversation of that.
Yeah, so trying to feel empathetic for the junior, senior wrestlers really that are impacted most by this. Obviously, it's a big chance. You could argue that it's life changing. You get that All-American, that national champ status, any that could really open up job opportunities, a whole new way of life, and you can't get that back, right? You get 4 shots in total, and like if you're a senior, this is it. So I don't know the right words to express that magnitude of loss, but I definitely I understand how they all react and how they feel and how it still weighs down on them each day. So I do feel sorry for them. I feel like a real perfect scenario would be it happened, and then like you can go back and say, well, reschedule this or have it this date and like all that stuff, and like there's so many things that happen, like, and each one brings a lot of good things and some bad things with it, and like it's hard to even like make them come to fruition, so it's just difficult. However, for like a younger guy coming in, I mean, there's guys that it would be great to have on that team every day if they weren't graduated. Like there's things that it's like everything's mixed emotion. There's no black and white in this. It's all just gray. It's so much gray. Just
no perfect solution, right?
No perfect solution. No perfect feeling. Don't know. It's keep working. Roll with the punches. Keep going. I don't know.
Yeah, and it's not that clearly, there were some people who expressed their disappointment and stuff, but it does not appear that there's any change coming, even with a guy like Cael Sanderson voicing his opinion on this. It seems like a done deal. All anybody can do is just cope with what the reality is. And in your reality, you coming in, the timing of how the lineup might shake out, that's all what you expected it to be.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just throwing we got a couple comments in here. They're not questions, but what a great young man. I assume Bill's talking about me, but it's possible he's talking about you. Great and young are not words that I've had used to describe me in a while. I'll let you go. I just want to kind of leave you with this. What should fans expect to see from you, whether that's on the mat or whether that's contributions or whatever attitude wise, when they're going to get officially introduced to you, the next, hopefully 6 months or so? What should they expect?
I think a lot of energy, real positive, outgoing. Obviously just a freshman coming in, but by the end of everything, I'd hope to leave a lasting impact. No bad news. Leave no bad news behind me. Leave it better than I came in. Elevate those around me. Use them to elevate me.
That all sounds like good stuff to me. It sounds like you actually got the chops to pull it off. That's Beau Bartlett, 4-time national prep champ from Wyoming Seminary, will be enrolling in Penn State soon, provided the country gets back on track and all that. You'll be seeing him in a Penn State singlet much sooner than later. I appreciate you being here, Beau.
Of course, thank you.
Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. This is a virtual visit here on PennLive. We'll be here doing these every week on Facebook and on PennLive as well. We'll see you next time.